recording just to cover the things that you guys missed in class on Friday, or if you didn't catch, or on Thursday, if you didn't catch everything in global history. So I'm going to start with our agenda. So if you don't have your Canvas page open to global history, you may want to open that up and look at the agenda for May 6th. And start with number 2. So number 2 has the link to our conflict project document, which I have pulled up here on the top. So you're going to set up your project if you haven't done that already. So I'll show you how to do that. The first thing that you need to do, though, is make sure you're logged into Noodle Tools. Now, again, as a refresher, you can do that through Gmail, through the apps, or on the Google homepage and go to this waffle box and click on Google Apps. And then if you scroll down and select Noodle Tools, it should allow you to select the account for your Nicolet account and then open up this main page for your projects, okay? So first thing you need to do is make sure your Noodle Tools account is open. Second thing, as we introduce the project, on page 3, this is where you need to follow directions to set up your project, okay? So you have a selection between 7 different projects or topics to do. I would say if you're looking for things that are more straightforward as far as the different parts of your conflict, you may want to choose the Korean War or the Cuban Missile Crisis. If you're looking for something a little bit more challenging and a little bit more higher level, you can choose between these 5, okay? So we have the Suez Canal Crisis, the Berlin Crisis, the Prague Spring, Polish Solidarity Movement, or Soviet invasion of Hungary. But again, most accelerated students choose the Korean War or the Cuban Missile Crisis. So say, for example, I wanted to, and I'll just demonstrate this for you, wanted to do the Cuban Missile Crisis. So what I would do is, like it says from here, click on the link and click on the link to that project. It's really important that you begin with copying the project from this Noodle Tools list because this has pre-formatted sources for you already in a project that's created. Okay, so instead of you creating your own, this project's already created for you. So you'll click on the link, depending on whichever one you choose, and then it'll ask you, it'll show you the sources list. So these are all the sources that have already been pre-selected for you. And then you'll copy the project. So if you select copy project, it'll just confirm copy to your account, make sure it's your Nicolet.us account, and then select copy. Okay? So once it gives you this green box that says project copied successfully, you're going to go back to your original tab where you originally opened up your projects, hit refresh, and then your newly formed project should be under your projects list. So the next step is making sure that this project is shared with me. So those directions are under number 3 on page 3, but for all intents and purposes, I'll show you how to do that as well. So I'll go back to my projects page and open up that Cuban Missile Crisis project that I just copied into my account, okay? The first thing that you can do is enter in your research question. Now the research question, if I go back to page 1, is this prompt question. What are the causes and effects of the blank? So whatever your conflict is goes in that area where it's blank, okay? So I'm going to go ahead in my research question under my dashboard. It says click to edit. I'm going to type that in. What are the causes and effects of the, and since my topic is Cuban Missile Crisis, I'm going to put that in here, Cuban Missile Crisis, question mark. And then click outside that box, and then that'll just be there for your reference. We'll come up with a thesis, which is an answer to this question, or your claim, which is an answer to this question later on. But for next, we want to make sure we share this with my project inbox so I have the ability to see what's in your project and grade what you're doing. So you go down to Sharing and Collaboration under your dashboard, and under Sharing, there's a big blue box called Share with Project Inbox. So you want to click on that, and then my project inbox is titled Conflict Project 2021-Holifield or -Holifield. So for me, it's not going to show a record match, but for you, it should start popping up with the list, and this inbox name should show up under that list. So you're going to click on that inbox name when it shows up in that list, and then click on Done. Okay? And then what I should see when I go in my projects and look at my inboxes and open up my conflict project inbox, and again, here's the name of that inbox, I should see your project shared with me here, okay? So the next thing that you'll need to do is get everything set up and start taking historical context notes in your projects, okay? So I'm going to close out this, which was a link to the Cuban Missile Crisis project to copy. I'm going to go back to my project for the Cuban Missile Crisis and open that up. And in the conflict project packet, on the bottom of page 3, you need to start creating your piles for your projects, okay? So there are 7 different categories that you need to have in your Noodle Tools account that you're going to organize your note cards under, okay? So we're just going to start with Big C context and geographical context, but make sure you also create a pile for your players, for your causes, events, effects, significance of your conflict, and primary source for your conflict, okay? So how do I create a pile in my Noodle Tools account? Well, you're going to go back to your Noodle Tools account and go under the Note Cards tab. So once I go under the Note Cards tab, in order to, and I'm going to go ahead and close this because it's just giving me instructions on how to create new note cards. I'm going to go under Manage Pile, click on that access link, and the first one I'm going to create is Big C Historical Context. Okay. And I'm going to hit Submit, and it creates a pile for me under my Note Cards tab. The next one, save and close, that was a mistake, so I'm going to go back to Manage Pile. The next one that I'm going to create is Geographical Context. Okay, so we'll get to Geographical Context notes in class on Monday. So I'm just going to start with these 2, but you can continue by creating your other piles for your players, for your causes, for your events, effects/significance, and primary source. So when I look into your account on Tuesday next week as I grade your context notes, I should see 7 different piles here with 2 piles with note cards in them, okay? So the next piece is starting to take notes on historical context, which we did on Thursday in class. So if you weren't there on Thursday in class, or for some reason you didn't take notes, this is what you need to pay attention to as well, okay? So under the agenda in the Canvas page, under number 3 for May 6th, I had 2 different presentations linked. We did not get to geographical context, but we did get to Big C historical context through, I believe, slide 10, okay? So you want to open up that presentation, and then I'll show you how you can take notes in Noodle Tools as well, okay? There's 2 different ways you can take notes as well in Noodle Tools. So we introduced the Cold War, talked about the learning targets, we discussed the map of Europe in the Cold War and the different dividing lines between the Eastern Bloc, which was communist, and the Western Bloc, which was democratically led countries after World War II. And then we started taking notes on slide 4, okay? So what you can do is essentially, for your note cards, I'm going to go back to my Noodle Tools account. If I want to create a note card under the Note Cards tab, I'll just click on New, and the title of my note card is going to be the title in bold in that slide. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. I'm going to paste it in my title, okay? The next thing that you need to do is make sure your source is selected. So for this source, we're using the Global History Team Cold War Nicolet High School source, because this is from that presentation. So I'm going to make sure I have that source selected. And then in the direct quotation, you're copying and pasting the text. That's the information within or underneath the title. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this information, go back to my Note Cards tab, and paste it under direct quotation. So the last piece that you'll need to complete for your note cards to be considered complete is your paraphrase and summary. So basically all this is describing what's under direct quotation in your own words. So if I look at the title, it says the big 3 allies of World War II. Under direct quotation lists the countries and the leaders of those allied countries. So I'm just going to put a paraphrase or summary that this information shows the big three allies of World War II. Information includes the countries that were allied as well as the leader of those countries. Okay. So if you want to add in your own information, but again, you're writing this in your own words, basically describing what's here in the direct quotation, I'm going to go ahead and save and close. And then the last piece is dragging the note card over the Big C historical context pile, unselecting that, and then it should automatically populate into that pile, okay? The second way that you can add note cards is by doing it under sources. So this gives you one less step to do if you create your note cards with the source that we're making note cards from. So I'm going to scroll down to that Team Global History, the Cold War presentation source, and I'm going to go ahead and click on New, okay? So as you can see, as that note card pulls up, the source is already selected, so all you'll need to do is fill in the title, direct quotation, and the paraphrase. So let's do that with this next slide. So slide number 5 is the title is going to be Players Continued. Number 2, Military Alliances After World War II. Now I want to say this, don't get confused just because the title says players that it belongs in the players pile. All of this is going to be Big C historical context. So all the information and notes that you create from this presentation are going into your Big C context pile. Do not put them in any other piles, only Big C historical context, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and copy this title. I'm going to go back to my Noodle Tools account, paste that under my title, and then just like I said before, you're going to copy the information starting with A in NATO, copy that and put it under direct quotation in that note card, and then you're going to summarize or paraphrase in your own words. So the title of this note card, again, is on military alliances after World War II. So this gives us information on the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, that was created in 1949. And it says 12 democratic countries unite to fight the spread of communism, and the basic rule that they align to is that an attack against one member country of NATO is an attack against all of the member countries of NATO. So I would summarize that in my own words. So NATO, or North Atlantic Treaty Organization, was formed in 1949 by 12 democratically led countries with the goal of stopping the spread of communism. Their basic rule was that if a non-member country attacks a NATO-aligned country, this would be considered an attack on all 12 member countries of NATO. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and again, I summarized that information basically that was in here in my own words. I'm going to go ahead and save and close. Okay. And as you can see, there are 2 note cards tied to this source. Now there's one extra step that you'll need to do if you create your note cards from your source list, just like you did in the note cards tab. As you create note cards, they're only going to populate here, so you'll need to always make sure that they get into the correct pile. I'm going to be looking for your note cards to be organized and placed into specific piles, okay? So you're going to drag this note card and hover it over your Big C historical context pile, let go of your cursor, and that should drop inside that historical context pile, okay? Now, if you are okay with continuing on, we actually completed slide 6, slide 7, slide 8, and we watched the Iron Curtain speech to get an idea of what that meant for our paraphrasing. And then slide 9 we got to, and we ended here. So on Monday, we're going to start taking notes on slide 10 with the events continued. And again, all of this goes in Big C historical context. None of this information goes in any other piles. So even if it says causes of the title, it's the cause of the Big C historical context of the Cold War. So all of this is going under Big C context, okay? Otherwise, you can wait and just do through slide 9, and then start with us on Monday as of slide 10 with the Marshall Plan, okay? So again, if you have any questions, my goal is for you guys to get this completed by Monday at the start of class so that you are aligned with the rest of us. If you need help, please don't hesitate to sign up for enrichment. I would prefer if you sign up for enrichment block 2 because I know I have a lot of U.S. history students coming in and working on the research paper and I have to connect with them. So for my time to be undivided and to give you the attention you need, I highly suggest signing up for EB2 on Monday if you need additional help on this. Other than that, I will see you on Monday.